Hello and welcome to the Brazilian BA Guest. We are doing a series of video talking about the Building Business Capability Conference, the greatest conference in business analysis that's going to happen in June in Florida. And today I have a special guest to talk about with me with subjects that are going to be discussed in this conference. This guest is Mr. Roger Burlton. Hello, Roger. Thank you for coming.
Hi, Fabricio. Very, very happy to be here and talk to everybody.
Roger, I know that you are an expert in business architecture, and a lot of people have this very basic question. What is business architecture?
It's a really good question because it can be anything you want it to be, I suppose. My point of view is that as business analysts, quite often we are required to solve some specific problems, a particular pain point, an opportunity that's there, and we go after it and focus on that. Whereas the business architect is looking at the whole business and trying to make sure that we design a business, which is another name for business architecture, I think, is business design. So we design the business so it can incorporate everything that might take place. And it's very much about how do we connect things together? How do we make sure we know what happens all the way through the organization? How can we make sure that we have good relationships with our customers, our suppliers, in all the things we do with them and for them? So it's how do we sort of lay out the blueprint of what's all the work that we do, what's all the information we have to have, what is all the abilities we have to have, all the capabilities that must be in place so we can actually satisfy our strategy. How can we connect our strategy to our operations? There's a lot of connecting that has to take place. But as I've titled my most recent book, you can connect the dots, but you have to collect them before you connect them. So it means understanding your information requirements and all those other things, and then know how they fit together.
I see that you're mentioning the book Business Architecture, Collecting, Connecting, and Correcting the Dots. Is that the name, right?
That is correct. And that the name of the book came out of when I was at a conference in Australia, in Sydney, Australia, a few years ago. And after some talks, it was a beautiful day. We're sitting overlooking the water at the conference facility, and we had a few drinks, which is good at the end of the day. That happens in Australia, as well as my experience in Brazil. I've had a few drinks in Brazil as well. But we're sitting there, and somebody said, "Yeah, the problem is we don't know how to connect the dots. We make a change over here, but we don't realize that when I change this, it messes up this. This is perfectly good before, and now it's not good anymore." So the expression that the main cause of problems is solutions, but we don't know the impact of what's taking place. So some people are saying we have to connect the dots, and then somebody else said, "Well, don't we have to collect them before we can connect them?" We said, well, that's how brilliant that is. It's a very good analytical way of looking at it. So we went through the alphabet and tried to find another word, and the only other word we could find that worked was correcting. And I thought, this is actually the life of a business architect and also a business analyst. This is what we do. We connect, we collect, we connect, and we correct. And so this is our life. So I said, I'm going to save that name for my book. So
And it's a great name. And sometimes I feel that some people see business architecture or any architecture work, especially those who had bad experience with enterprise architecture, as some kind of bureaucratic job or just documenting stuff and not really useful for an agile organization or an organization that's not spending so much time in thinking and is trying to do changes in a more fast-paced base. How do you approach business architecture in an agile environment?
Yeah, it's a very, very interesting question. And it's almost, as we say in English, it's almost like an oxymoron. The things don't, you say, I want to build these stable things, but we need to be agile. But it's very, very interesting that in if we want an agile organization and not just doing agile software development, we want an agile business, then there's certain things that don't change all the time. And there's many things, but there's a few things that change a lot. And the problem is, if a small thing changes, if it means we have to change a lot of other things because they're so intertwined and interconnected, it makes it hard to make a change happen. Well, what I would prefer to have is I prefer to have an organization where I can see all the parts and I can determine when we need to change quickly, I can change one thing and it works, as opposed to have to change everything in order for it to work. So even though we have agile organizations today, or organizations trying to be agile, there's so many major transformation projects underway that take 3, 4, 5 years, um, that 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 it just it's impractical to make those changes over and over and over again. Every 5 years, you're going to major transformation. That doesn't work. We have to be agile. But for example, if I have business rules and the business rules are changing because the marketplace is changing all the time, I don't want to have to change all my processes. I don't want to have to change all my data infrastructure. I don't want to have to change and rebuild all my software. What I want to do is give a business person the opportunity to change the business rules today and have it running tomorrow. But that means I have to separate the business rule from the process. I have to separate the business rule from the data, but I have to know how they're connected. So if I change it, I know the impact of change. Architecture allows us to avoid unintended consequences of change. And so actually I think if you have a good architecture, you can actually be more agile because you can just change the things that need to change, not everything.
The right architecture allows me to adapt my business in a dynamically way. So, but for that, it have to be thought from the beginning. So, when I created the architecture, I must realize what are the points that I want to change and make that changeable or configurable or something like
Yeah,
that.
I have to design. I have to think about what will I do when I have to change. So if as a business analyst, we're looking at requirements for a new way of doing business, we have to look at it and say, but one of the requirements is I'm going to have to change how I do business. I don't know what it is yet, but I need to design it so not everything is so hard coded and so hard connected. It's just too difficult to make the change. And so the other aspect of that is that in separating things, but associating them when we need to associate them, I can find more sharing. So, for example, if I'm in an organization and it's really important that I'm able to identify my customers and make sure they really are my customers and they're not hacking us and things like that, um, I need to be able to have some services that allow me to identify people. So you can call it identity management is something I need to be able to have. But identity management, if I'm a bank, I'm using it for credit cards, I'm using it for loans, I'm using it for signing into systems, I'm using it for like 10, 12 different places. But I'd like to have one identity management. But architecture says if I've got one, what are all the places where it's used? And then if I need to change it, I can go in and know that I'm not messing everything up by fixing it for one person only. So it's this the ability to see the pieces and how they connect together is really important before we start just going in and making change happen without knowing what's going to happen later. But we have to design for that. We have to architect for that.
Very interesting. And I know that you are going to give more about that at the Building Business Capability Conference. And you're one of the chairs of this conference. So
Yes.
I would like you to explain for people that are watching us right now, what is the Building Business Capability Conference and why should they attend it?
Yeah, I think then when we came up with that name, almost 10 years ago now, we were thinking about what is our job as analysts and architects and designers. And our job really is to build organizations that can adapt and flow and twist with the wind as things take place. So, but also it just to raise the skills and broaden the skills of analysts. So one of the things we really have tried to do with the conference design is to make sure we don't only give very traditional, classical, very narrow perspectives on things. We try to take a wider point of view, and we really encourage people coming there to, to attend sessions which are not just the things which are directly in their current job description, but to look for things which might be coming and are broader, and learn a new set of skills so that we're more agile as analysts. So the conference is designed to have a variety of points of view, and we really encourage everyone to sort of look at those different things. Now, it's been with the challenges of the pandemic, it's been challenging for us to sort of come up with a good set of topics, but we have a lot of people who want to present at the conference, and we selected really, really carefully the ones we think can challenge the people coming to the conference. It's to open your eyes, learn something new, and it's also very much about collaborating and just connecting with people again, and being able to do that again after these last couple of years.
Yeah.
So broaden your perspective, learn a bit, learn some new things, and create some new contacts that you can keep for a long time.
Those are great tips, not just for the conference, but as a whole. But I hope to learn a lot from you and from other presenters and participants in this conference soon. Thank you, Roger. Thank you very much for being here today.
Okay, thank you very much.